What happens when one person decides they've had enough? When they look at the destruction around them and say, "No more"? In 1997, that's exactly what happened in Northern California. A young woman, just 23 years old, climbed a 1,000-year-old redwood tree and made a decision that would stun the world. She wasn't coming down until she saved it. For 738 days, that's more than 2 years, Julia Butterfly Hill lived 180 feet above the ground, in a space smaller than most bathrooms. No electricity, no running water. Just her and an ancient tree she named Luna, fighting against powerful corporations, brutal weather, and crushing loneliness. This isn't fiction, this isn't a movie plot, this is a true story of determination, survival, and an unshakable belief that one person really can make a difference. Before we start the video, there's something I'd like to say. Mr. Ace is a new channel, and liking the video is very important for the YouTube algorithm. If you enjoy the video, please don't forget to like and leave a comment. Thank you. Now, let's continue with the video. Before she became an environmental icon, Julia Hill was just a preacher's daughter with a unique childhood. Born in 1974 in Mount Vernon, Missouri, her early years were spent in a 32-foot camper van, traveling from town to town as her father, Dale, spread the gospel. Along with her mother, Kathy, and brothers Mike and Dan, young Julia learned early that home wasn't a place. It was wherever they happened to park. This nomadic lifestyle meant nature became her constant companion. The family would explore rivers and forests near their campgrounds, teaching Julia early lessons about the beauty and importance of the natural world. It was during these wandering years that she earned the nickname that would later become legendary. At age 7, during a family hike, something magical happened. A butterfly landed on her finger and stayed there for the entire journey. From that day forward, she became known as Butterfly, a name that would later seem almost prophetic. When Julia was about 10, her family finally settled down in Jonesboro, Arkansas. But putting down physical roots didn't necessarily mean feeling grounded. Young Julia struggled to fit in with her peers. As she later told the San Francisco Chronicle, "I didn't belong, I didn't understand other people, I didn't know how to relate." Always a driven individual, she graduated high school at 16 and jumped straight into the working world. She took jobs as a waitress, then worked her way up to restaurant manager. Like many young people, she became caught up in the pursuit of success and material things. But the universe had other plans for her. Sometimes life's most profound changes come through its most painful moments. For Julia, that moment came in August 1996, at age 22. She was acting as a designated driver for a friend when a drunk driver slammed into their car from behind. The impact was devastating. The steering wheel penetrated her skull. The accident nearly killed her. For almost a year, she struggled through intensive therapy, learning to walk and talk again. But while her body was healing, something deeper was happening. Her spirit was transforming. As I recovered, she later recalled, I realized that my whole life had been out of balance. I had been obsessed by my career, success, and material things. The crash woke me up to the importance of the moment, and doing whatever I could to make a positive impact on the future. The steering wheel that had nearly ended her life had, in her words, both figuratively and literally, steered me in a new direction. After her recovery, Hill embarked on what she thought would be a simple road trip to California. She ended up at a reggae festival. But this wasn't just any music event. It was also a fundraiser to save old-growth forests. There, she learned a shocking truth that would change her life. Only 3% of America's ancient redwood ecosystem remained. These magnificent trees, some older than the Roman Empire, were being cut down at an alarming rate by companies like Pacific Lumber. When Hill first walked among the redwoods, the experience overwhelmed her. When I entered the ancient redwoods for the first time, I dropped to my knees and began to cry, she wrote. I connected with a higher purpose for my life. These beautiful forests were being clear-cut, and I wanted to do something. That's when she met a group of activists from Earth First, who were doing tree sits, living in trees to prevent them from being cut down. They needed someone to stay in a particularly magnificent redwood tree. Nobody else would volunteer, so they had to pick her. On December 10th, 1997, Hill began her climb up the ancient redwood. The tree, which she would later name Luna because of the full moon rising that night, stood 180 feet tall and was estimated to be around 1,000 years old. The climb itself was daunting. It seemed an exhausting eternity before I reached the top, Hill remembered. When I finally got there, I untangled myself from the harness and looked around for a place to collapse. What she thought would be a few weeks' stay turned into something much more significant. Little did she know, she wouldn't touch the ground again for more than 2 years. Hill's new home consisted of 2 6x4-foot platforms, roughly the size of a small bathroom. Her amenities were basic: a single-burner propane stove, a bucket for a bathroom, and whatever supplies supporters could hoist up to her using ropes. She learned survival skills that most of us would never imagine needing. For instance, she discovered that not washing the soles of her feet helped. The tree's sap made them stick to the branches better. She collected rainwater to drink and wrapped herself in a sleeping bag with just a small breathing hole to stay warm. Her daily life became a lesson in minimal living. She used solar-powered cell phones for radio interviews and became an in-tree correspondent for a cable television show. A support crew of 8 members would bring up survival supplies, which she would hoist using ropes. The winter of 1997 to 98 brought El Niño storms that tested both the tree and its determined protector. Hill faced freezing rains and winds up to 90 miles per hour. Imagine trying to sleep as your home sways back and forth like a ship in a storm. Except you're 180 feet in the air. One night I thought I was going to die, Hill wrote. Imagine you're on a bucking bronco. Put that bronco on a ship at sea, in the middle of a storm. Then put that 180 feet in the air. I was broken, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, suffering frostbite, cut off from the only people that care whether I live or die. But instead of fighting against the movement, Hill learned to move with it. She developed a deep connection with Luna, learning to sway with the tree rather than resist it. This harmony with nature became a powerful metaphor for her entire mission. Pacific Lumber Company didn't take kindly to Hill's protest. Their response was a campaign of intimidation that would have broken most people's spirit. Security guards were stationed at Luna's base, trying to prevent supporters from bringing her food and water. At one point, they staged a 10-day siege, hoping to starve her out. The company flew helicopters dangerously close to her platform, attempting to blow her out of the tree. Loggers would cut down trees around Luna, letting them crash into her branches. The psychological warfare was constant. Threats shouted from below, the sound of chainsaws getting closer and closer. The company's CEO, John Campbell, refused to negotiate, stating, "She is breaking the law, she is trespassing, and you don't negotiate with people who are breaking the law." Despite the isolation, Hill's story began to capture public attention. She conducted interviews via solar-powered cell phone, becoming a media sensation. She hosted TV crews and became an in-tree correspondent, using her platform to educate people about the destruction of ancient forests. Flying squirrels became her unexpected companions. "I did my best not to tame them," she said, "but the flying squirrels found every food morsel I dropped. They knew that, when the candle went out, that was the time to make as much of a mess as possible and tap dance on my head." After 738 days, more than 8 times longer than any previous tree sit, Hill finally achieved what many thought impossible. In December 1999, she reached an agreement with Pacific Lumber Company. They would protect Luna and all trees within a 200-foot buffer zone. In exchange, Hill and her supporters provided $50,000 to the company, which they then donated to Humboldt State University for sustainable forestry research. Finally, after more than 2 years, Hill could come down from her perch. But the story wasn't over. In November 2000, less than a year after Hill's descent, vandals attacked Luna with a chainsaw. They cut halfway through the massive trunk, leaving a gash 32 inches deep and 19 feet around the base. Yet, just like its protector, Luna proved resilient. A team of arborists and engineers, led by Eureka civil engineer Steve Salzman and assisted by Humboldt State University professor Stephen Sillett, designed and built a remarkable bracing system. They installed steel cables to help Luna withstand extreme windstorms, with peak winds between 60 and 100 miles per hour. Today, Luna continues to grow and thrive under the stewardship of Sanctuary Forest, a non-profit organization that regularly checks on the tree's condition. Coming down from Luna was harder than going up. The person I'd been when I'd gone up and the person I was when I came down were so profoundly different that I wasn't sure how I was going to be able to live in the world again. She became a sought-after speaker, sometimes giving 250 talks a year. She founded the Circle of Life Foundation, which organized eco-friendly music tours and training programs for environmental leaders. She wrote a best-selling book, The Legacy of Luna, sharing her story with the world. Hill's activism didn't stop with Luna. In 2002, she was arrested and jailed in Quito, Ecuador, while protesting a proposed oil pipeline that threatened to destroy an Andean cloud forest home to rare birds. The country's president mockingly called her the old cockatoo who climbs trees before deporting her. She also became an advocate for tax redirection, choosing to donate about $150,000 in federal taxes to programs she believed in: after-school programs, arts and cultural programs, community gardens, and environmental protection initiatives. In 2006, she joined protests to save the South Central Farm in Los Angeles, continuing to fight for environmental and social justice causes. By 2014, the constant public attention and demands had taken their toll. Hill stepped back from public activism to focus on her health, though she continues to advocate for environmental causes behind the scenes. On her website, she explained, "I came down to a hurting world, constantly wanting and needing my help with everything they cared about. From their child's book report, to trying to save local trees and community gardens, to ending animal cruelty for food, to creating the Department of Peace in response to endless wars. The issues and challenges were endless." Hill's time in Luna taught her something profound about the world's problems. "While I was in Luna, I learned that every issue we're facing is a symptom, and the disease is the disease of disconnect," she explained. "When we're disconnected from the earth and we're disconnecting from each other, we make choices and don't realize how it's truly impacting all of us." This realization led her to start the What's Your Tree project, encouraging others to find their own cause worth fighting for. As she puts it, "We all have our own version of a tree sit that's out there waiting for us. It's our life's calling." Today, Luna still stands tall in the forests of Northern California, a living testament to the power of one person's determination. The tree's survival, despite attempts to destroy it, mirrors the resilience of the human spirit that Hill demonstrated during those 738 days. Hill's story reminds us that we're all activists in our own way, consciously or unconsciously shaping the world through our choices. As she often says, 7 billion of us, and counting, are all activists, because we're actively shaping our world. The only question is, are we conscious activists or unconscious activists? In a world where environmental challenges seem more daunting than ever, Hill's story offers hope. It shows us that one person, armed with nothing but conviction and courage, really can make a difference. Sometimes all it takes is the willingness to climb a tree and the determination to stay there until the world changes. Make sure to like the video and subscribe for more stories like this one. We'll catch you next time.